Grateful Dead. I don't know why that made it in there. Well, anyway, whoa, you silly fool, you went off and forgotten the golden rule, which you know what it is, smell your own stink. Now the chorus. Now you're grown up playing harp in a speed metal band. Your song is number 389 all over the land. Things are really getting out of hand, but you smell like a rotten can of Spam. Smell your own stink. Now to the more important part of the Big Flannel repertoire, which is about McDonald's and about Big Flannel itself. So, take me to the nearest McDonald's. We all need to get a little high every day so that we can get by. I know it feels just like a stab in the back when I go one whole day with no Big Mac. And then the chorus is just take me to the nearest McDonald's over and over again. Yeah, so I'll go to the end of the song. Some folks say that I'm a little jerk. They think I've never done an honest way of work. I sit and McFester in McDonald's all day long, and this is Big Flannel's Greasy McDonald's song. All right, and so in response to that, in response to ourselves, we also wrote an anti-marijuana song called Just Say No, set to a reggae beat. The lyrics go, see the Rasta man sitting in the sand, a spliff of ganja he's holding in his hand. The sense of meal is so bad for you. Listen, my friend, I'll tell you what to do. Say no. Blah, 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 blah. We used to sit around and smoke the grass, but that was way back in our, and this is a wrong word. We meant to say sordid, but we said sundry. But this was way back in our sundry past. Now to get high, we eat McDonald's all the while, and this is Big Flannel's rub-a-dub style.
So you can understand what we're dealing with here. From my early work, A Dilemma, I'm tired of having a fertile imagination. I have an erect pen and need to learn verbal contraception. This most illegible fornication is not in keeping with the word of wisdom in my real family, but then apparently neither is abortion. There you go. Just so you know what we're dealing with here. That is what we are dealing with here. No. Then as I go on about the creative act, let me tell you, as I told my friend John Green earlier, I'll sing the fire songs. In case you wondered, I'll sing the fire songs, songs that steam and sting, hissing as I amble them into your cool snow. That's right. I can't even go on because I have no idea what any of this means. I'll give you one more sentence so you know. Okay, so you know how incomprehensible it gets. Okay, I've just ambled my fire song into your snow. That's where we were. Piecemeal dozens number off. Lumbering gypsies in their odd assemblage, crowding closer now, they feel each other's faces in the babbling dark, the gift of tongues.
It's funny, as what we just heard. But it's instructive for a few reasons. First, because it is basically just a 500-word plot summary of all of my novels. In that it is, semi-autobiographical and features some super obvious Firefly metaphors. And the second thing is that I did not know when I was writing this in 1993 that I would later live in Indianapolis. All right. Christ. When I was a young boy, Grandpa and I would often catch fireflies from dusk until bedtime. He would run and jump and chase after them like a deer, I suppose, as relentlessly as I. We would put the uncaptured fireflies into a large pickle jar with several holes so as to allow them adequate air and a safe environment. The smell of pickles still brings back memories of those muggy Indiana evenings and those beautiful insects. As much as he loved having fireflies, Grandpa never once let me keep the fireflies overnight. He knew that some of the bugs would probably die, and he could never let that happen. Days at Grandpa's house were spent waiting for the sunset. Now mind you, sunsets in Indianapolis weren't all that special. They tend to be gloomy and boring, just as Indiana days are. However, the sunset was beautiful to Grandpa and me because the moment the last slice of sun was hidden behind the horizon, we raced outside and prepared ourselves for the ritualistic catching of the fireflies. The first 20 minutes of our evening were spent searching for the occasional early bird. After another half hour, darkness began to set in, and Grandpa and I called the first 45 minutes of darkness prime time, because this was when most of the fireflies chose to come out of their hiding places and glow in desperate search for a mate. Clearly I had my own sexual issues at the time.
Your erect pen.
Yes, my erect pen was desperately searching for a mate. What they often found, however, was a boy searching for beauty and happiness. I was so sensitive. I didn't want a mate, I just wanted beauty and happiness. I'd learned long ago that fireflies were sacred, and that it was my duty never to injure one. Only once did one of my revered creatures die while in our hands. It was my last night in Indianapolis, and a gloomy day had preceded the wondrous night lit only by a half moon, the stars, and the fireflies. And presumably all the electricity. It was the height of prime time, with fireflies blinking all around us. Grandpa spotted one by the bird feeder, and we ran toward it. Grandpa beat me to the bird feeder and prepared to nab the firefly, but his hands were not as steady as they had once been. And when he clasped his cupped, shaking hands together, the firefly was caught in between his palms. My grandfather cried out and slowly fell to the ground. I too screamed as I reached the bird feeder and saw the sputtering firefly on the verge of death. I had no idea what to do. It couldn't be shot as you would a dying horse, or given CPR as you would a dying human. Really? I couldn't imagine a humane way to kill a firefly. What will we do without a gun? How will we solve this terrible problem? Perhaps we could smush it. So anyway, he cried. As the firefly made a last desperate attempt at flight, my grandfather began to cry. He wept not only for his lost firefly, but also for his lost youth. You're welcome. In case you hadn't put the metaphor together. He cried for nearly an hour. As I was thrust into an uncomfortable position which I did not know how to handle. I was so shocked to see my 71-year-old grandfather crying for a freaking hour. And so, not knowing what else to do, I said to him what my father had said to me upon the death of my turtle. We'll give him a nice funeral and he can go to Firefly Heaven, I told Grandpa. Grandpa chuckled through his tears, and he said that he thought I had a fine idea. And so that night, just before bedtime, my grandpa put the remains of the little firefly in a beautiful gold velvet jewelry box and buried it beneath the bird feeder. The doomed firefly was the last one my grandfather ever caught. What story is complete without death? Less than a week after the death of the firefly, I was standing in a smoky funeral hall looking down upon my grandfather's starkly unalive body. He had died of a massive heart attack, alone, in his house. We went to Grandpa's house just before the funeral to rest. The moment we got there, I went to the bird feeder and unearthed the gold velvet jewelry box containing Grandpa's last firefly. Christ, I wish this weren't so similar to one of the scenes in one of my books. I knew that Grandpa and the firefly needed to be together, so as they lowered the coffin of my father's father into the ground, everyone at the funeral threw a rose. Everyone, that is, except for me. I threw the jewelry box into his grave, knowing that while roses would wilt and tears would dry, the spirit of the firefly would always be there with my grandpa.